So that means all that pizza talk is not in the recording. Great.
It's lost to the ether.
That is so sad that we didn't that all your listeners missed on us discussing what we could put in a Menards bag, which includes pizza. Yes.
Yeah.
I bet you could fit like 30 pizzas in one of those bags. All right, I just got to go do one more thing, and then I'll be ready to go.
All right.
I'll be right back.
He's heading to Menards to see how many pizzas he can fit in a bag.
Oh, it is pretty close.
I didn't exactly program this show very thoroughly, but I kind of hoping and I kind of suspect that it's gonna be just fine.
I have full confidence in our abilities.
I gotta admit, I was checking my mailbox to see if my Menards bag had showed up.
Okay. Well, anyway, welcome out to another episode of the Gaming Hipster podcast with me, Mr. Neil. And today we have two of my favorite old school early 2000s web creators. First up, we have the hacker of many things, from portabilized consoles to one-handed controllers for veterans, director, producer, and star of the film Posthumous Woman, the host of the BenHeck.com podcast, and running his YouTube channel called BenHeck Hacks, and most appropriately, the creator of the pinball games America's Most Haunted and Bill Paxton Pinball, Mr. Ben Heckendorn.
Hi, glad to be here.
And on the other end of the tin cannon string, we have the creator of WrestleCrap.com, host of WrestleCrap Radio, author of The Death of WCW and other tomes. Co-owner? Are you co-owner of Rupert's Kids Arcade?
I don't own. No, I have no ownership. It's a charity, so I just help out. That's the whole goal, is to help the Rupert's Kids charity. So
he helps out with Rupert's Kids Arcade, Mr. RD Reynolds of WrestleCrap.com.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and this is, like I said, this is just going back to like early 2000s, having both you guys on. I've been a fan of you two for years. Just the funny shit you used to put on the internet. We used to have to like actually read stuff on the internet. I can't believe it's hard to imagine nowadays. But anyway,
well, yeah, because we didn't have enough bandwidth for video.
Well, I remember like Ben, you would do these skits in your blog where you'd be like doing some sort of like Mission Impossible type thing, where you'd have to like break open the Wii because of the Nintendo security screws, blow the dust off the Atari so that you could see the laser sensors and everything. Those were great.
That's all still online on my website.
I'm sure it is. I can't find it though. I'm sure if I did a deep dive, I could have. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to find it.
I added it all to my WordPress CMS system.
Okay.
Oh, that's redundant.
And of course, RD, I actually have access to the original version of the website that you have squirreled away. We get it through the Patreon, but I don't know. There was a different way you could get it at one time, and I have it through that. So it's fun going back and looking at those old articles. They were so short back then.
Right. And they were like in what I called rainbow vision. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, okay, how many colors can I get in this Internet Explorer browser?
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of the old days where it's like, oh, I'm going to put red text on a blue background. This will look great.
Oh, yeah. Back when none of us had any taste.
25 years ago?
Yeah.
Now with COVID, nobody has any taste. No, too soon.
Oh, no. Well, I know we all miss, the site under construction that was the 2-frame animated GIF of like a road sign.
Oh, yeah.
Needs to make a comeback.
Oh, man.
That and flying toasters. Very, very much in need.
Oh, flying toasters predates the internet that's back in, 84?
Oh my
God.
God.
The Macintosh.
Oh, yeah.
So not the Macintosh. What was it called? After Dark, the screensaver set?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
After Dark. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're here to talk about pinball, and as I said before the show, I don't really have a format for the program, but since everyone here is pretty good at talking, well, except me, of course, I'm terrible. I just figured I'll just shoot out a topic and we'll just kind of go with it. Now, Ben, you've actually made pinball tables. What kind of goes into making a pinball table? Can you kind of start us off here?
Pain. Yeah, well, the first one I made was. Oh, sorry, my phone's making noise. The first one I made was my homebrew Bill Paxton pinball machine, which I made that. When did I finish that? 2010. So that was almost 11 years ago now that I did that. And I did it because, I'd been doing like portable game systems, Xbox laptops. I'd done a lot of that stuff. But I wanted to try something that was really challenging, right? And that's why I'm like, oh, what would be really difficult to make? And then I'm like, oh, I should make a pinball machine. Like I'd built arcade machines before. So that's why I did it. And back then I was going into like arcades and what do they call it? Bowling alleys and like measuring stern games because I didn't know what I was doing and I cobbled it together.
That is crazy that you just kind of like went for it. I wouldn't even know where to begin. And it had to be just the fact that you were already engineering things that you were just kind of like building up to making bigger things. And you're just like, hey, I'll try to do this.
Well, that was one of the first projects that I ever did that used microcontrollers.
Mhm.
I used microcontrollers a little bit like in the mid 2000s, but 2010 wasn't pre Arduino, but it was pretty close. I mean, when we talk about like old school hacking it, so if I was just waxing philosophical about that on Twitter a few hours ago, like back when we were doing all that portable stuff in the early 2000s, it was a completely different world for like makers. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't even know what like pinball life was. So actually, a lot of Bill Paxton pinball was some guy in Craigslist, I want to say. He had like all the parts. He'd stripped, I want to say it was a high speed, right? So I went down there and I bought basically a bunch of parts from a high speed for like $40. And it was a total cobble, it was totally cobbled together. They're like 24-volt Gottlieb flippers with, end of stroke switches that were used for switching the hold coil because that was before they had Fliptronics. But it worked.
You still got it?
No, I actually sold it. No, I know. I sold it to Lloyd at SS Billiards up in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
I know because I don't know. I just didn't really care. I think like he did a Kickstarter because he needed some money. This is like, I don't know, 5 years ago. No, it's more like 6 years ago. And I'm like, oh, you know what? And he's like, can I buy it? It'd be really unique. I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't care. I mean, this is what I think I'd already made America's Most Haunted, so I didn't really care. For me, it's more about building things than keeping them. I keep very few of the things I made, like very, very, like 5, right? So yeah, I sold it to him, but I think he's, with COVID, he's had some hard times. So I know Charlie at Spooky really wants to try to buy it back from him so we can have like the wall of armors and Iron Man, but wall of pinball machines. Because there was a lot of DNA, at least from the code in Bill Paxton Pinball, that actually did carry forward into like the first 4 Spooky titles, mechanically or software wise.
Can I ask a bit about Bill Paxton Pinball?
Yes.
First of all, I have played that because it was at Expo one year.
Really?
Yeah. And I just have to ask,
was it Expo? I don't.
Yeah,
Expo
no,
or MGC?
No, it was at Expo one year.
Really? God,
Yeah.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I'm sorry. Continue.
No worries. No worries. So I have to ask, because it's such a delightful idea.
I went from doing like 10 conventions a year to 0 now with things the way they are. So there was a blur of how many. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No worries. So the idea of doing a themed pinball machine is, awesome. You came up with Bill Paxton, which is amazing. How did you come up with that idea? I want to do Bill Paxton, because it's not like I'm going to do Nightmare Before Christmas or I'm going to do Steamboat Willie. I mean, it's something much more out there.
There is a really cool Nightmare Before Christmas homebrew machine. Okay, yeah, you played it.
Yeah. And very have you seen the Steamboat Willie? Because it's really cool too.
Oh no, I haven't seen that one.
Oh yeah,
that must be fairly new.
Yep.
I just wanted to make a pinball machine because I've always liked pinball, and I just thought it would be cool. I wanted to pick a theme that was like batshit crazy, and it was either going to be like that or like Bruce Campbell. Like I wanted it to be like some sort of culty movie thing, right? but I just thought Bill Paxton was a more esoteric choice. And I like all the Bill Paxton movies. I mean, he's well, sadly he died. I mean, I wouldn't call him a character actor, but he was in a lot of movies. So, he's always got such great quotes, and I just thought it'd be cool. So yeah, a lot of people ask me why Bill Paxton, and that's why I just wanted to make something where people were like, what, And I think it was like the first from scratch homebrew pinball machine that was ever made. So it has that going for it too.
Right.
I think someone turned Atari Superman into Futurama like about 15 years ago. That was the only one I knew of before, but it wasn't from scratch.
Right. It's such a what the hell concept too. You're almost like why would you go with Bill Paxton? And then like a second you're like, well, because it's Bill Paxton. It's got it. I don't know if I'm describing this right, but it's WTF, but it's like, of course.
I love making people think that I'm crazy.
Yeah,
I don't give a crap what they think. So in a way, it's like I'm trolling people. That's my way.
Yeah, it's like why would you do that? And then the immediate answer is why not? I think that's where I was going with that.
You know what I always found funny with that? We would take it. I think we took it to MGC for like 3 years in a row, and I guess it went to Expo once, which I don't even remember. But if you say so, but it'd be funny. Like parents would come up and play it with their kids, and the game was quite profane, right? And no parents even batted an eye. It was so funny. They didn't care what the game was talking about. Well, Bill Paxton, he had some fairly colorful language, we'll say, and. I just found it funny that no parent ever complained, even though I saw tons of parents like playing it with their kids. So I thought that was funny.
Now I'm thinking about it. I may have to apologize. It may not have been Bill Paxton that I played. It may have been the also obscure Aaron Spelling pinball. That's what I think it was.
That's even better.
So, yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was actually contracted by Aaron Spelling.
Exactly.
Oh, I updated my Creative Cloud, and now Premiere won't render a video. Oh, lovely. This subscription is great. I almost said prescription. Yeah, that happens a lot. There was like, I think they changed a checkpoint. Stern made a checkpoint customized for Michael Jackson. Celine Dion has her own pinball machine. It's all basically driven by vanity.
So anyway, RD, what kind of history with pinball do you have? I understand you had games in your house and you're helping out with Rupert's Kids Arcade. How long have you been a pinball fan?
I've been a pinball fan since college, which was many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been late 80s. And my buddy and I were always broke. But we love playing arcade machines, and then we said, well, let's try this pinball, because you can win free games. And when you have no money, you wound up getting pretty good at it. Otherwise, you had to go back to the dorm and sit around and play, whatever games we had on our Atari STs or whatever we were running at the time. And so we wound up being, just getting into it then. Of course, you kind of hit a golden era, right after that, because you had, my all-time favorite pinball machine, which is Whirlwind. You had Addams Family that came around that time, Funhouse. I know I'm just naming Pat Lawler games, but lots of other, just great games. And so I just became a fan then. I got my first machine, which was a Creature from the Black Lagoon. Which would have been, I don't know, 15 years ago, probably.
Yeah, maybe that game came out in 92, I want to say.
Yes, yeah. And so I got that. And then it was, I only have room for, it's funny because you say, well, I have room for, I'm only going to get one machine, but that never holds true. So I wound up with like 5 machines in my house, and then I met Rupert Bonham from the TV show Survivor. I had no idea who he was. He came up to me. I was helping, of all places, a drive-in movie theater with an arcade. Because the cool thing about helping arcades is then you can have more games than will fit at your house. And
Yep.
Mhm.
A buddy of mine does that. He
So
basically stores his collection on location.
exactly, and so I was helping with the arcade, and had a Pac-Man Cabaret or something. A couple of machines. They had a little arcade, and Rupert was there signing books, and he came up to me, and big burly guy, and this tie-dye outfit, and he's like, "I understand you run this arcade," and I was like, "Well, I help out with it," and he said, "Well, I want to have an arcade too," and I said, "Well, where?" And he told me, and it was the same town that the drive-in was in, which is Shelbyville, Indiana. It's a very small town. It maybe has 35,000 people. And I was like, "Dude, this town is no way big enough to have an arcade." And he goes, "No, it's all for charity. I own the building, and so it's just all for charity. So whatever we can get, that's what we're gonna do." And I said, "I'm totally in, because I want to help the charity." And the other cool thing about it is, really the thing that was I want to say in the back of my mind, but was the forefront of my mind, is like, all right, I'm gonna have an arcade, which has always kind of been a dream, and that means I can get all these big machines that I can never fit in my house. So I can get linked drivers, and I can get 4 Hydro Thunders linked and 4 Outrun 2s linked and all this stuff. So it was really cool. And then of course, continue to get pinball machines, because I love pinball more than any of the other stuff. The challenge is, of course, the pinball machines are so much more expensive, and it's not as easy to just run out and get whatever the latest new Stern is, or whatever the classic machine is that you want to have. Although I've been very blessed to have owned basically all the classics that I ever wanted to own, so that was a huge plus.
What's your favorite?
My all-time favorite is still Whirlwind. I just think it's just perfect. It plays fast. It's very, very unforgiving. And the thing with Whirlwind is you'll get a good game going, and you're like, man, I'm gonna grand champion this thing. And then I always say, Whirlwind got a whirlwind, and then it will just sit there and go, no, you're not gonna do that. And then it will just pummel you, because it's such a mean machine. Especially the one I have now. I've owned 2 or 3 of them. The one I have now is not is nice as maybe some of the others, but it plays the fastest of any of the Whirlwinds I've ever seen, and is just brutal, and I just love it. Mm-hmm. Newer machines, I mean, there's been so many great machines over the years. I still miss that Creature from the Black Lagoon. My wife's never forgiven me for selling that, but love that. Newer stuff. I really love Batman 66.
Yeah.
Just a really good. I love the theme. And
yeah, it has really good theme integration.
Yeah, I mean, just because they were able to cram so much in, and you sit there and it has the different episodes, and you even like little clips where they to the bat poles. It's literally the clip is from that exact episode. You're like, man, somebody really paid attention.
The whole was written by the best programmer in the biz, absolutely. Lyman Sheets.
Yep. I mean, I'm never one that theme over rules over everything. I mean, that's the case, like especially at the Skycade at the Skyline Drive-In, or that I help with, or at Rupert's. It's just theme. That's all anyone's looking for. So you put a even an older we have an older Pirates of the Caribbean, the Stern one, and I mean people just love that because they love the theme. They love
that game. That game earns.
Mm-hmm.
It's got one of the best toys in pinball history. Yeah.
That's a really slick toy, and it's a lot of times whenever I see those toys, like I always get a little fearful whenever I see a really cool pinball toy like Rudy on Funhouse or something.
Because you think it's gonna break.
Yeah, and you sit there and go, man, this thing's gonna be such a nightmare to put back together. But that ship on Pirates is not bad to put together at all. And I'm anything but a mechanical wizard like someone else on the line. So
Right.
Right.
I've been thinking about that too. Like actually the engineer just emailed me today, and there's a toy on the game I'm working on now, and I'm like, oh, this will be really cool, but I hope it's reliable enough.
Mhm.
So designers think about that as well, because we also know if an operator, well, obviously you're an operator. If an operator looks inside of a game or sees something, if it looks like it's something that's going to break or that's too complicated, that actually can shy them away from wanting to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I've owned, some of the other stuff. Like I had a Star Trek Next Gen, and you're always just sitting there going, "Okay, I got to make sure that every single opto is working on this right." Or this.
Well, that's one of the most notoriously buggy games ever. I mean,
yeah.
it's a great game and it sold really well, but it wasn't really an operator's friend. Because
Right.
they were teleporting the balls around, as you mentioned with the optos. It was pretty critical.
Yeah.
So what's it like to maintain the tables? I mean, I imagine there's a lot more. Well, there's a lot more moving parts on a pinball table. Like, what happens when it breaks down? Like, how costly is it to maintain these things?
I mean, it depends on the game, and some of it is you got to keep in mind. Like we have a Bally Kiss down there at Rupert's, and that thing is just like always down, and you get really frustrated with it, and then you have to step back and think, okay, this thing was from 1977, I think, and you're looking at this machine, you're like, okay, well, this machine is, it's 45 years old.
That's pretty good.
You're gonna be you facing battles. Some of it is just, sometimes it's not bad at all.
I think it was like 78 or 79.
Okay.
Yes, it's pretty old. It's over 40 years old.
Right.
Yeah, and you're just sitting there. You're fighting a battle where you're trying to, fight back time, and hope that you're going to be, you're going to win. That the parts that you need are not unobtainium.
Like the Gottlieb spider chips.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll have stuff like that on video games too. Where you're just like, okay, well, I cannot get this. I can't get this part anymore, and it's just it's such a battle. But and like you said, Ben, I mean, a lot of times we just look at it and go, okay, is this going to be something? Is this a machine that we're willing to battle with? Or is it something we're like, you know what? No, we'll pass. We'll get something that's easier to maintain. Parts are much more common. I'm not going to have to worry, and be sitting there fighting with, Rudy's jaw not working or something.
I mean, it's one of the big reasons why. I mean, I have operator friends, and that's one of the big reasons why they don't even want to deal with pinball, is because, it's not solid state. If you think about it, like, quite literally, like when you went from, mechanical relay pinball machines to solid state, okay, that became more solid, but then you had arcade machines which were completely solid state, which means, sure, they can break, but they're going to break because of just time passing, not because of like, mechanical stress or like actual damage. Whereas, you're throwing a metal ball around inside of a game. It's kind of like, it's almost meant to be destroyed.
Yeah. I always heard, and I don't know if you had heard this too, that like one of the things that really affected Bally Williams is that was part of their business model, is these machines would wind up getting all torn up and everything.
Oh, are you talking about, are you going to bring up diamond plate?
Oh, you got it, my friend.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, that was like what, 1990? It was what? It was Pinbot? No, Bride at Pinbot or Funhouse was the first one.
Yeah, it was. There were some Whirlwinds that actually are diamond plated too.
That was Lawler's second game after Bonsai Run, correct?
It was his third after Earthshaker.
Oh, okay.
Shouldn't hurt.
Man, he was making a lot of games back then.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Funhouse is really cool. Funhouse is diamond plate. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I
mean, so it was like the Beetle and the Super Beetle. Like once they made diamond plate, the games didn't wear out as fast, and so operators didn't buy them as often.
Right, and they put themselves in a we can't sell these. Why would we go and buy more games? The Addams family was making all kinds of money, and it wasn't wearing out.
It still makes money. That's the thing people don't realize. Well, I mean, collectors do, but I mean, they were just basically pieces of garbage that were meant to collect quarters for 1 to 2 years and then be thrown in the trash.
Right.
And it's amazing that it's kind of like the Voyager spacecraft. It's amazing that they've lasted this long. Obviously, you have to maintain them and whatnot. We can't exactly change the rubbers on a spacecraft that's beyond Pluto. But it's kind of funny to think about that way. Or if you look at like Data East Batman, based off the first original movie.
Yep.
I mean, like that one didn't have diamond plate, it's just automotive clear coat. Let's be honest. And you cannot find a pristine Batman playfield. I mean, if you find a new old stock, it's like finding the Holy Grail.
Right.
But then you compare, like, even if a fun house is kind of beat up, it's still going to be pretty decent. I mean, if anything, they get dirty, but in a way, the dirt can like protect the playfield. Like if you get some of those like ultra dirty games, like at a truck stop.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've seen some especially like more recent Sterns. Like you'll see, like I've seen Pirates, or for some reason maybe Elvis or World Poker Tour. You'll see some of those that are just
Sterns, but
but you understand what I'm saying. I mean, 2000 early 2000 Sterns that have been at a truck stop and they're just coated with people would go, oh my gosh, the thing is just looks so filthy, it just destroyed. And it's like, nah, just get in there with a little Novus 2 and I bet that'll come up and it'll look like perfect underneath all that dirt. Like you said, it just kind of protects it. So
yeah, it's kind of like a barn. I actually got a barn find Swords of Fury down in my basement right now, but but then now you have, I mean, I shouldn't say too much, but Stern's been trying to maximize profits.
You don't say.
Yeah. So you've gone from diamond plate. I mean, all games dimple, but I don't know. I played my buddies who's got a location, Led Zeppelin, just a couple of days ago, and they could do better. I think I shouldn't. Well, who cares? I've heard that like Stern does like a direct, like a UV ink print. Like if you like are direct printing a playfield, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like base layer white, CMYK. Well, it'd be 6 color. It'd be like CMYK, then light cyan, light magenta. And then another nozzle puts on the clear. Right. That's what I've heard they do. Whereas Spooky literally puts, automotive clear on theirs in a booth, with a can.
I almost wonder if one of these days, and I don't think they have started doing it yet, I could totally see Stern offering that as okay, well the premiums and the pros get 3 coats of protection.
Clear.
Yeah.
Well, but it takes time because you have to wait. You have to do that. Then you have to wait for it to dry, which means you can't pump the games out. And Stern definitely does a very good job of pumping games out the door. I mean, they build faster than anyone else by a long shot. But I mean, you think about it, like you put on a layer of clear, you got to wait like a day. You put another layer, that's another day. Then you have to wait like, I don't know, a week for it to like actually harden. Because otherwise you're screwing parts onto the playfield and then you're compressing it. And then if the clear is not completely clear, it might be dry to the touch, but it's not going to be like, like a shellac. So it's going to compress into the inserts. And then you could have the pooling issue that people talk about. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, they could do that. I mean, Spooky does that too, where they have the butter cabinets, right?
Right.
Where it's direct printed onto the wood with the Jetrix. And then, again, they actually spray clear the cabinet in like a paint booth. And it looks really cool and is well protected, but it takes more time.
My guess is it would also be something if you say, okay, we're going to put this protection on it, that if anybody sees any flaws at all, they would come after Stern like crazy, because they would have not only said, okay, I bought a premium game, it was $8,000, $9,000, and then we also paid the extra $500 to get it perfectly clear coated. Why am I having issues now? Then it could get a little.
And that does happen. Like they actually did like a big playfield swap program with Ghostbusters.
Yes.
The thing that people don't know is Stern had changed vendors. That's one of the reasons they had so many problems right off the bat with that game. And they're actually swapped. They're actually sending people entire populated playfields and swapping it out, which must have cost them a fortune.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not going to say how Spooky does it, but there's actually, there's a lot of like, I don't want to say science, but because you've got like the inserts are never perfect. There's always a gap, so you have to have something that fills in the side of the inserts. You have to keep everything level. Plastic and wood expand at different rates because they're completely different materials. Wood is crappier than it used to be. We grow trees, like we grow, everything's pine. We grow trees that grow as fast as possible. Like I can go into my garage or my house, which is like old, and I can look at the lines in the wood, from the rings in the tree. And if you look at older houses, the lines are closer together because in the past, the trees had more time to grow, right? But now we try to grow trees as fast as possible. And so you have more spacing between the lines. So the tree, it's kind of like it's its own plywood, right? It's created plies through nature. But if they grow very quickly, you have fewer plies. And you look at a 2x4 you buy at Menards right now versus like 40 years ago, and they're going to look different because we're just trying to grow trees too fast. And that also affects the quality of the wood.
Mm-hmm. Even trees live in an Amazon world.
But not in the Amazon because we're too busy cutting them down.
That's right.
3 points, nothing but net.
What do you guys think of like these pinball? Have you ever seen these guys on YouTube? The guys who restore old pinball machines. Like I'm thinking of like Todd Tuckey, where he's actually kind of like altering the machine a little. Like he's putting in the super brights and he's putting all he's like doing all sorts of modification. Have you seen that?
That's not considered altering. That's pretty common to update machines, that kind of stuff.
All right, because I know he's gotten some hate, and I wasn't really sure what the overall consensus was. I do like his videos. I haven't seen him in a while though.
Well, as long as you don't make the game look like vomit Skittles, like cover it with like all these like rainbow of colors.
Well,
that's when people start to get pissed off.
Sometimes he does that.
Since you said that, the clown vomit, right? I actually I had gotten a Star Wars pinball machine from I think it was Data East 92, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So the original Star Wars.
Yep. And I had just saw it on Craigslist, and it was in Illinois or something. I said, hey, if you meet me halfway, I'll pay you an extra $100 so I don't have to drive that far. And so I just met the guy, got it, brought the machine home, powered it up. Every light in the machine was a blue LED. It was the strangest thing I'd ever seen.
Even the inserts?
Yeah. I was like, what on earth is this? I was like, man, this guy really, I guess blue is his favorite color.
If you put a colored LED in an insert, it should be the same color as the insert.
Agreed. It shouldn't be
because
blue.
then yes.
Maybe he got a really good deal on those blue LEDs, is my only guess.
Well, there are some, they actually like, what's that company? Pinball bulbs, out in Seattle, I believe. Mm-hmm. I think Terry has them too, or Coin Taker. They'll do like a warm white, right? So it's like an LED that's meant to have the same color as an incandescent bulb.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times, if they restore especially like an older game, they'll actually a lot of times they'll actually try to replicate the same orange light color of those old bulbs. I guess it just depends. But sometimes if they just go overboard, it doesn't look very good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with sprucing up a game, but like if you're not putting any thought into it, if you're just like, oh look, the more colors the better, it's not gonna look.
Sometimes they throw in like the color changers, and it's just this. It's like a box of Lucky Charms exploded onto the pinball table.
As I tell my son all the time, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And it's just you have to kind of. I guess I'll give you an example. Sometimes it's also something. Okay, this is a machine that's for me. It's personally for me. I'm going to make this machine how I want it. I'm not going to put it out on location or whatever. So, I have a friend that can do translights. And getting a good translight is really, really difficult because people will print them inkjet and they never look right. A lot of times it's that you're just not getting the black. You're not getting that deep black like you need to. So my buddy actually does them as true photographic. So you're getting, there's no dot, there's no ink, there's no nothing. And I had my whirlwind, and on the back glass, it's a tornado theme or whatever, and it has a thing that says, welcome to Kansas. A billboard that says welcome to Kansas. And I was like, I really want mine to say welcome to Indiana. So I actually made a whirlwind translate that's exactly the same, and you have to really look for it. But if you see mine, it actually says, welcome to Indiana. I thought that would be fun.
Toyotas. Are there Toyotas in Indiana? No, I was going to say, are there tornadoes there?
Oh yeah. Not as bad as Kansas per se, but there's been some really bad tornadoes, over the years in Indiana for sure. Yeah, I mean, if it was a hurricane game, I wouldn't put welcome to Indiana on that, but
yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
right.
Hurricane. Yeah, he sure loves his disaster. Wait, but Hurricane was about a roller coaster.
That's correct. Yeah.
See, I always thought when they had dialed in, it's like, okay, yeah, he's trying to do like another disaster game, right? But why didn't they call it like Disaster City, right, or something?
Right.
It's like this. Okay, when you play it, it's a really good game. When you play the game, like, oh, it's a pinball version of Sim City, basically. It's like, so why not give it a name so people understand what it's actually about?
Yeah.
That I thought that was dumb. Actually, Keith Johnson came up with a name for it. I gave him shit for it one time at Expo.
Yeah, it's so funny. It reminds me a lot of whenever I was in Neil, you had mentioned, Death of WCW, the one of the books. And I remember when we were coming up with, okay, we're going to do this the death of World Championship Wrestling. And I kept trying to come up with all these clever names for it and everything else. And my co-author, Brian Alvarez, just said, no, we're calling it Death of WCW because that way everyone knows what the book is. Don't outthink it. Don't make it something so esoteric that people aren't going to get it. And you and your, three friends are going to think it's like the funniest thing ever. Make sure it's something that people understand what it is they're getting. And I think it's the same thing with that. Yeah, I think Dialed In. I mean, that was, as soon as that came out, people were just like, wow, this is a stupid theme because they didn't know that it was, it's all about disasters and everything. They thought it was a cell phone game. Oh, is it like, it's
right?
Terrible.
I mean, Dialed In is, that's a pinball term for like, getting your game dialed in.
Sure.
But like you just said with your friend, it's an inside joke. It doesn't translate outside of the hobby. And, just like with licenses, it's like you walk up to a pinball machine and like, well, I was talking to Charlie about this and I'm like, because I think Rampage would be a really cool pinball theme, right? And I was talking to Charlie about it. I'm like, Charlie, you should get Rampage. He's like, oh, I don't like working with Warner Brothers, Ben. And he's like, well, just make a monster game. I'm like, Charlie, because if you call the game Rampage, you don't have to explain it to anyone.
Right.
They walk up to it. Oh, I get it. Done. And it's like a shortcut, right? Like Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh, Lord of the Rings. Okay, I know I have to destroy a ring. I have to fight a Balrog. It's not just about. It's not just about, oh, I like this thing and I have a basement that I can put games in. It's, especially on location, it's a shortcut to understanding the game.
Exactly. Right. It can't be something, it can't be something that is something that people don't understand. They have to be able to get it like right away. Like, unless it's like something that's like a, like, think of the Elvira games where, they had, Scared Stiff. Or something double entendre that you that plays on a couple different levels, but
yeah,
don't think it's something that people
wouldn't that be a triple entendre? Octuple entendre. I really like the new Elvira from Stern. I mean, I'm not a 70-year-old man, so I don't care about Elvira, but it's the closest thing we'll ever get to a Mystery Science Theater 3000 pinball machine.
Oh, dude, I want it so... It's funny because you mentioned Mystery Science Theater because I actually paused on my TV right now. I have a Mystery Science Theater show that I paused just so I could do this.
Which episode?
It's a it's a rather obscure one, or it's not really obscure. It's called The Undead. It was a Roger Corman film. And it is it's people don't really know of it, which is too bad. It stars the woman that was in Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. She's in it as an evil witch, and she is just amazing. But yeah, I know I'm right there with you, and it's so funny because there are only a few pinball machines that I'm not allowed to have in my house, or it doesn't make sense to have it at a Rupert's Kids Arcade, and I was always just sitting there going, I really want that new Elvira machine. And I floated it by my wife, and she's just like, no. I don't think that would be good with our just turned teenage son in the house.
It is
so
far fewer double entendres than Scared Stiff. I really like it. I mean, I remember because I actually know Dennis Norman pretty well, and I was rooting for him at Stern, because Stern took forever to make the game. It was finished like 3 years ago, but at the same time, I'm like, oh man, this is so. I mean, let's face it, Elvira was out of date in 1996 when they made Scared Stiff. But I mean, I know my dad liked her, but that was a million years ago. So I was kind of like boo-hooing it. But then when I played it, I'm like, oh, this is freaking awesome because I love Mystery Science Theater. It's really, it's Mystery Science Theater, the pin, and Elvira's here too.
Right. If Torgo is on the machine, then I'm all in.
I know this will be the third time we've used the word in this podcast, but it's amazing that Stern made something so esoteric. Like, not only is Torgo on the back glass, but they drew him with the cloven feet like he was supposed to have in the movie, but they couldn't figure it out. Like how he has big knees in the movie?
Right.
It's because they wanted him to be like a satyr with cloved, reverse, limbs and hooven feet. That's what they were going for with the giant knees. That was the intention.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That is the deepest of deep dives right here.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to out-geek me. Well, anyway, so that's why he had the large knees in Manos Hand of Fate, which is also redundant. It's bilingually redundant. But so I thought it was amazing on the backlash. So like, let's give him the type of feet that the filmmakers had intended. It's kind of, in a way, I don't know how well that game sold. I kind of have to imagine it probably didn't sell super great, but it's kind of amazing that Stern made a game that was so niche like that. Like, first of all, it's Elvira, which, let's face it, is pretty niche in 2020 or 19 or whatever. But then all those like strange details, like the Werewolf of Washington, D.C., and like Torgo, and then even the detail of like making his feet correct. That's awesome.
Yeah, I tried to, because my wife is, whenever we had our first date, was that's one of the first things we talked about was Mystery Science Theater. And so maybe I just need to go back to her again and go, Torgo is on this machine. I think it would be okay. I could print a Manos Hands of Fate translate if you'll let me get the machine. I don't know. I gotta try harder. Really gotta try harder.
I was like, and there was Teenagers from Outer Space was on there.
Mm-hmm.
Was that on Mystery Science Theater?
I think so. Yes.
And then what was it, like the Wild Women of something? I'm pretty sure that was on Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
It's got a decent amount of toys for a Stern game. The mansion's cool.
Mm-hmm.
The spinning thing is cool. But the only negative I would have, I'm not like a super great player. I don't really care about rules. Like for me, it's like, am I enjoying playing this game? The one thing I would say about it is it's got pretty good writing for a Stern game. It could be better. Some of their games, like I thought Deadpool just had atrocious writing. I don't care if a comic book writer wrote it. The writing's pretty good. The thing is, like some of the intro clips where she talks is a little long.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
that game is awesome.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I do kind of love that, they're doing the, a deep dive, and go. Yeah. I mean, it's just like we were talking about with Batman. You need to provide, that fan service so that a fan goes, oh my gosh, it actually has this. That's crazy. How did they go that deep on it? But yeah, I mean, that's really cool. Yeah, I just love it, because it is. Yeah. It's basically Mystery Science Theater the pinball machine. So
yeah, like as you mentioned, like someone might say, "Oh, look, that guy has a hooven feet. He must be Satan or something." Great,
Mhm.
but then I see it and I'm like, "Oh my god, they they know the backstory of what Torgo was supposed to be."
right.
Yeah, it's good.
I was got to throw something in there for the 1% crowd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's attention to detail, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Greg. I don't know. I'd have to ask him next time I see him. But maybe Greg Ferez is a big Mystery Science fan. I don't know. The artist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What would be like a dream pinball aside from Mystery Science Theater? I'm sorry, this was actually one of my questions, and you kind of went right into it.
We actually approached Mystery Science Theater. Like that was yeah, Spooky did. I want to say that was like 2015. This is so pathetic to talk about it though. It was like we were talking to them and they liked the idea, but it was something like they wanted one machine per participant, right? Which is pretty normal. So I think I wanted to say it was like, shoot, I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'll just say the name. So Crow, Tom, and Joel, like I said, is his name.
Yeah.
Something like we had to give them like 5 or 6 machines along with a license fee. And at that time, that was too rich for Spooky's blood. And then someone told me years later that they were at a convention and Trace Boulet was saying that, yeah, we were gonna do it in Crow voice. Yeah, they were gonna do a pinball machine about us, but the deal fell through. It's too bad, huh? And I said to Charlie, I'm like, oh, Charlie, we've disappointed Crow. But Crow would be happy because every Spooky pinball game has Roadhouse quotes put into it.
That's awesome.
Yep. Now Spooky can do that. Now, like Rick and Morty, I want to say they had to give him 4. I want to say it was Dan Harmon, Justin Roiland. Who's that guy from The Talking Dead? Whatever his name is. And then Cartoon Network. So I think they had to build 4 or 5 Rick and Mortys and then just give them to the people. They can afford that now, but back in 2015 or 14, no, it's 2014 because it was for Rob Zombie. That was that was like, oh my God, Ben, that's 40 grand worth of pinball machines. We can't give that away. But we looked into it. I'm sorry, I know we were talking about dream themes, but I just brought that up as a segue because that was something we looked into.
Yeah, that would. It's interesting because you could get, and I assume that this is how Stern did it with Elvira. I mean, those movies are in the public domain, right? So they would be able to get that, but they would not be able to get, the quotes and such. Yes.
Yeah, looking back now, I don't know. Well, although I really liked Elvira, but the thing is, Elvira is like the glue that holds it together because Elvira, in a way, or Vampira before her, they were like the original Mystery Science Theater 3000. Because, if you have all these disparate movies, you need to have a glue that holds it together.
Right.
So I always bring this up. I'm going to change the topic ever so slightly, but Monster Bash, right?
Of course.
And it's like, it was like, oh, we've got access to the Universal monsters for a pinball machine. And then someone's like, well, none of these monsters have anything to do with each other. They're all in different movies. And then some genius, and I don't mean that facetiously, said, what if they were all in a band?
Yeah. No,
and then you tie them together.
Yeah, that was my Grail machine. And I was actually very blessed to be able to get that.
You're searching for the Holy Grail.
Well, I had that machine too, but it was not
Which
not
one? The Stern or the Williams?
Oh, the Williams. The Williams. Come on now. Give me a little credit. But that Monster Bash, I mean, that was such a fun game. And it was so funny. And it had so many really. I mean, it was one of the funniest machines I've ever played.
That's what people forget about with like the 90s. Like that's what I tried to do with America's Most Haunted. It's like the reason people like Attack from Mars, Medieval Madness, and Monster Bash, the Holy Trinity, is because they're funny.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That was the thing. I mean, it was just there was just that even like Addams Family, had comedy in it too. It's not plugged in yet, and all that, all those little things.
Keep it! I've got a whole bucket full.
Exactly.
And then it had that great pinball ready line, showtime!
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stern's getting Rick and Morty is a perfect example. I mean, that's one of the reasons people love that game so much is because it does have a lot of personality and there was a lot of custom dialogue and it was performed by, Rick and Morty is the same actor, but it's performed by the original actor, singular.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, or like Stern Spider-Man, where they got J.K. Simmons, Venom quoted as saying blah 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 blah. I mean, that was good, that was good.
Yeah, and again, it ties it in, and it draws you into it because it's of that same universe, so to speak.
Which universe?
Meaning the whenever you have J.K. Simmons, you're getting it's that same voice actor. It's not somebody pretending to be him, which always draws me on it. This is one. Here's a rather
Stern Avengers.
I actually own one of those too, and that was really tough. And one that always, because I love his games, I love Steve Ritchie games, but anytime, specifically like on Star Trek, whenever I hear Steve Ritchie's voice because it's so distinctive, it just pulls me completely out. I'm like, no, this is the guy that designed the game. He's not in Star Trek. It just pulls me out. I don't know. It doesn't just be me, but
I actually realized he was doing that voice in Star Trek for quite a long time. I know that's hard to believe. I have a Steve Ritchie story. It's very short.
Go ahead.
I was at a convention. Wow, that's how all my stories start. And I was talking to him, and because usually, like, if we're at a show and we go out and smoke cigars, he'll come out and smoke with us. And I'm like, Steve, can you do your impression of Mortal Kombat? And he's like, it's not an impression. It's the real thing. Finish him. It's funny. I just loved his snark. I thought that was so great. Steve's very deaf. So if you talk to him, you have to like look right in his face so he can read your lips. Fun fact, if you ever meet Steve Ritchie.
Okay.
Wait, we're talking about dream themes, right?
Yeah.
What we really see, there's your promised segue. How off topic we got.
Yeah, that's fine. I've just been kind of sitting back and letting you guys talk. I understand I'm very silent, and I'm like, wow, this is a really good podcast I'm listening to. Oh wait, I'm the host.
I mean, another dream theme, and it goes into comedy as well. And there's no way they could really do it. I would just love a Weird Al machine.
Oh,
I know that
simply because he's just a hero of mine. I've just followed him, I think, almost since he started recording. I think back in '79.
You know that Deep Root company down in Texas that bailed out John Papaduke?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think they might be looking at that, possibly.
Wow. Okay, that would be really interesting.
Would it be about the songs? I mean, it seems like the songs might be a licensing nightmare.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying I don't see how you could do it.
Or do you make UHF?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Oh, I would be totally down. Wheel of Fish multi-ball. Yes.
I was almost afraid to suggest it because the last time I suggested something on this show, one of the guests said, "Well, Neil, that already exists." I'm like, "Shit."
I would say I have two.
Yeah.
Right. One would be Rampage, and then you would have, and so it's like it'd be kind of like road show, except for it wouldn't be linear. You can go around America in different ways, right? And there's like 3 buildings on the play field. And they're on linear actuators, so they can like change the heights and like crash down to the ground, like 9/11 as well. Too soon. And then you have like an LCD as the front of the building, so you can like make the windows look different in each town. Have little people running for their lives in the buildings, and then the monsters are trying to destroy the buildings, right?
Mm.
And it's like you're the player, and you're standing above this pinball machine, and you're looking down at the miniature buildings, and it makes you feel like a large monster, like the scale of it, right? Like it's a power fantasy. And then like tanks come out and they block the orbits. And then you have like a general voice, kind of like Attack from Mars, like, we gotta fight the giant monster, man. You have like something like that. And then you have like an ironmonger that comes out of the middle of the playfield every 3 cities. And that's like your Pacific Rim wannabe monster. Release the giant monster fighting robot. comes out of the playfield. And then since the buildings, they're physical buildings, but again, their front facade is an LCD, obviously protected from air balls like PETG. So not only can you make the buildings look a little different, change the window design, have people, but you could also give them different signs. So like you get to a city, like, oh, we're in Peoria, right? And the buildings spawn, which means they come out of the playfield at different heights. And then you can say, oh, this one's the IRS, this one's the DMV, and this one's the evil bank. So it's like you're smashing those things people love to hate, or insurance company or FBI or whatever people don't like,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that'd be really cool. And the other one would be a pinball machine based off the Old Testament, and you do it like God of War meets Cecil B. DeMille meets Michael Bay.
that is quite the mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually and Deeproot stole that idea from me, and they're apparently going to make it, but they gave it a terrible name. They want to call it Fire and Brimstone, which is
No,
right? It's like Southern Baptist shit, right? It's like, no, you have to make Cecil B. DeMille, and mine would be like, it'd be all scientific. I mean, there isn't even God. It's just shit going down, right? It's like babies dying and people being beheaded, and it would be awesome. Anyway, yeah, so I've been thinking about that one for like 10 years. Maybe I should just make it anyway, because I don't know if they're going to last. So yeah, those are my two dream themes. Also, Futurama.
Okay. Yeah, you need to get on this. You have a lot of thoughts as to how to make this Rampage machine. I think that
and the Bible Adventures game. I put a lot of thought into that one as well.
Bible.
Yeah, I think Rampage would be really cool. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm making a game right now. Maybe after that, because I was actually talking to David Thiel about it at MGC last year, and I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Thiel," and then actually it was the first time I ever met him, and I'm like, "I've never met you before." And he's like, "You're Ben Heck, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am. I'm honored to meet you, Mr. Thiel." And then I'm like, "Okay, with that out of the way, who owns Rampage?" And he's like, "I believe Warner Brothers." And I'm like, because I want to make a Rampage pin. And he's like, "You mean just for fun?" I'm like, "No, I want the license. Who owns it?" And he was like, "Warner Brothers." Because Warner Brothers bought Midway after they collapsed. All right, I'm done. I've said my piece on dream themes. Okay, yes. So Bible Adventures, but only Old Testament, none of this redemption crap. And then Rampage and Futurama. Those are mine.
Bible Adventures, I can't help but thinking that maybe you could throw in a secret mode where you have to find the Hellraiser prototype cartridge for the NES.
Yeah. I've always thought it'd be cool to try to build that, right? Like, I mean, I remember the magazines from back in the day, and I understand it more now because I understand how things work. And I think it was going to be like a Z80 CPU that was going to basically raster draw images into RAM, and then the RAM would be copied into the picture processing unit. So it basically would have been like Star Fox, basically.
Wow.
Because that was the thing. They wanted it to have like 3D environments or whatever. But yeah, there was going to be a CPU on the cartridge. And it would actually, in a way, it would probably work better than Star Fox, because Star Fox had to do DMA to copy the data from the cartridge. Because Star Fox had like a 20 megahertz 32. Yeah, was it 32-bit? I think it was 32-bit RISC processor that actually drew the polygons, right? It drew them into a how big was it? Whatever the frame, I don't know, like a 1 megabyte memory buffer. And then every frame, the CPU would DMA that into the console's memory, and then it would basically create the display, right?
Right.
But with a Nintendo Entertainment System, actually, that's not entirely true. No, yes, it would be. So on the Nintendo Entertainment System, you had two separate RAMs on the console. You had 2 kilobytes of work RAM for the CPU, and you had 2 kilobytes of memory for the PPU, the picture processing unit, right? And so what you would do is something like Hellraiser is you would basically repeat all the character set 0 to 255. You'd repeat that 4 times on the screen. So you'd have all the characters 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And then the character data itself was actually stored on the cartridge, like the char RAM, the CHR RAM on the cartridge, right? So as the PPU was loading the character data off the cartridge, you would basically do a scan line counter, and you'd update it 4 times. So every time you ran past a total 256 characters, because, if you tried to, here, let me just pull up my calculator. So you got 256 divided by 8, which is 32. And then what was the ton? 240 divided by 8 So times that 32. Oh yeah, okay, 960 bytes of memory. So obviously, if you divide that by 255, you only get 3. Oh wait, no. 960 divided by 256. Oh, wait a minute, programmer mode, so I don't have a remainder. Anyway, my point is, yes. So you would put a bunch of characters into the memory, into the memory on the Nintendo, like, oh, here's the characters trying to draw. But then you would rapidly change the characters in the CHR RAM on the cartridge. And if you did that in such a way, you could actually create rasterized images on the Nintendo. And people have done this, like people have made cartridges that will actually play Netflix on Nintendo. So it's totally doable. Was that too deep?
No.
I was making sure that I got everything. I was writing it all down so I could do it later.
Yeah. You keep going like, so you do this, right? And I'm like, and I have no idea what you're talking about. But I can follow some of it, and it's really fun to listen to. But I love that digression that you just went on to. That came off like one color dream joke.
Okay, I think I can simplify this, right?
Okay.
So at any given time, the picture processing unit has access to 256 tiles of sprite data and 256 tiles of character data, i.e. the backgrounds, right?
Right.
So if the Nintendo, well, not if, it can. So if you have 960 total characters per screen, you divide that by 256, and that means if you were to put all the characters on screen, they would repeat 3.7 times over, right? Because obviously there aren't 960 unique characters, there's 256 unique characters. However, if you had a scanline interrupt, which Nintendo did all the time, that's how they did like the multiple scrolling, like Super Mario 3.
That I understand, yeah.
Yeah, like the MMC3 actually had a scanline counter where it'd say, oh, you've reached scanline 120, time to split the level to make the boss rise up in Super Contra, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you basically would say, okay, we've driven, well, what would that be? So it'd be 256 divided by 8, 32, and then, 32 into 256 is like what, 16? No, it's 8. Right, so say, okay, we've drawn 8 character lines. Now we're going to trigger the cartridge to give us the next bank of data. So you basically redefine the character set or change the data bank 3 times as the screen is being drawn. And by doing that, you could have a completely rasterized display, i.e. not a tile-based display, right? Right. So you do that on the cartridge. And so you'd have like a Z80 or some other CPU. It would draw an image, and then you'd probably have to have a double buffer. And then it would put that image into the same memory space as the character RAM. And yes, you'd be able to create a rasterized display.
Yeah. I've seen people do weird things with the NES. Like they take like they have like a chip on a cartridge that can emulate the Super Nintendo, and then through some wizardry they have it so that you can play Super Mario World on the NES through an emulator that's running off a chip inside of a cartridge. It's like the weird things that they can do nowadays. And of course, the color is like all janky and and there's like flickering all over the place. But the fact that you can even get it to work is just amazing to me.
Well, they would do that the same way as with the Hellraiser cartridge. Yeah, you basically dump the buffer into the memory that the Nano can access, and then it appears on the screen. And the Nintendo Entertainment System is uniquely positioned to do that because it's, the cartridge on that basically has 2 data buses. It has the code data bus and the graphics data bus. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it actually makes it specifically, uniquely able to do that. Yeah, so I guess if people have done that, that's pretty much the same thing as the Hellraiser cart, so maybe it doesn't need to be done. I'm going to / end rant.
Okay. There was, like I said, this episode really had no format anyway, so I appreciate the digressions. It's fun to listen to. So do we have anything left to really get into? I guess the lamest one would be like favorite pinball. Although I think somebody already said, I think RD already said that Whirlwind was his favorite. So Ben, what is your favorite?
My favorite pinball machine?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I really like Attack from Mars. What else do I really like? I like Theater Magic a lot. I used to have one, but it gets kind of easy after a while.
You like Circus Voltaire?
No, I don't like Circus Voltaire. The new Guns N' Roses from JJP is really cool. I mean, it's not like my favorite game. I just thought I would put that out there. It's Pretty impressive effort.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh, Space Shuttle. I really like Space
Oh
Shuttle.
yeah, that's a good one.
The Barry Osler game. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty basic. It's been years since I've been to an arcade, and of course haven't been able to go anywhere in the last year. But I guess this is going to be very basic. But I guess like you said, Space Shuttle, Taxi, and Funhouse are maybe my top three, and they're all Williams games. Uh, Pinbot too. Although I weirdly enough, I first played Pinbot on the NES, where they made that weird sort of sci-fi adventure version where there's like actually things on the board that attack your ball, and it's such a weird game, and I liked it.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I think that was maybe a rare, I believe.
Yeah, it was rare, and it was pretty hard too. I would only get to like maybe the second or third color variant of the board, because the board would change colors as you got further into the game, and after a while the enemies on the board would start attacking your flippers, and you're just done at that point. It's like, well, I can't even defend the drain anymore, so I guess I'm just done.
Didn't that game had a vertical scanline counter split, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It like halfway up the screen, it would actually split, and you would always see your flippers at the bottom, but the top half of the screen could scroll up to the top of the board. It was really neat. So all that talk about scanline splitters and the MMC 3 chip actually worked into the episode quite well.
Pinball was like, that was an older title. That was probably pre MMC3, wasn't it?
It was, I believe it was 1990, which would have been about the same time as Mario 3.
Now we're gonna have to look this up.
I'm pretty sure it was the NES port.
Pinbot NES. Okay. Oh yeah, 1990. Good call.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that was like what, 3 or 4 years after the game came out? Or yeah, 86 was when the pinball machine came out.
Yeah, I have an ironclad memory about NES releases, but like anything in the past 10 years, it's like, when did that come out?
Yeah, so they probably would have needed an MMC3 to do that. I mean, they probably could have done it without it, but because MMC3, I think it basically counts the top number of oscillations of the A10 line on the PPU, and that's how it approximates the screen. Because if you notice, like, there's never ever a clean break on the scanline counter. It's always a little bit of an error.
Right.
Unlike other systems like the Atari, but of course the Atari has the displayless interrupt built into the hardware.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a trick like the Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah. No, Pinbot's cool. You listed 2 Python Angelo games in your list.
Yes.
Taxi, you give to me a ride. And he put his voice in that game just like Steve Ritchie.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've never seen the Maryland version. I've only ever played the what was it, Lola?
Yeah.
They changed the
The
character.
Maryland one's pretty rare.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, what?
Oh no.
Okay.
I was actually talking about Python on Twitter like about 3 hours ago. It's kind of funny.
Oh, okay.
He was quite the guy. I hope someday I can be as crazy as Python.
So anyway, I think we're gonna get out of here. I'd like to thank my guests, RD Reynolds of WrestleCrap and Ben Heck of BenHeck.com. Thank you guys so much. It's been Neil. I've barely talked this episode, but it was so fun to just listen to you guys ramble, and I didn't, once you guys got into like technical stuff, I really didn't know what to say. I'm just like, well, I just let these guys talk, I guess. So I don't know anything about like building a pinball machine or any of the really technical aspects of just how the machine works. So it was just fun listening to you two guys. And do you want? I know I just gave your websites away, but you guys want to do your own sort of plug?
You may go first.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Okay. www.benheck.com. Also, I'm on Twitter at BenHeck. You can listen to me complain about things and fight with people about political topics. I love to fight with people. It's great. Well, no, I would consider it an engaged conversation. And then also on YouTube, I had the Ben Heck Show, which all those episodes are still up. It's now called Element 14 Presents. So you can search for Element 14 Presents, Element 14 being silicon, of course, like computer chips. Right. And then also Ben Heck Hacks.
That's where I post content to now.
Yeah. And RD?
As always, just go to wrestlecrap.com. We've been talking about terrible wrestling, hopefully in a comedic manner for the past almost 21 years.
Oh my God.
It's really kind of crazy. You can catch me on Twitter and old man social media Facebook, which is where I'm generally on, at WrestleCrapRD. You can also learn about Rupert's Kids and Rupert's Kids Arcade, also on Facebook at Rupert's Kids Arcade, and also rupertskids.org. So yeah.
How did the arcade benefit charity? How's that work exactly?
Sure. Basically, I have my machines in there. There's no coin drop other than the air hockey, because I don't want to put a credit button on it, and the skill crane. But basically, you go in, it's $5 for an hour, $10 for the day.
Okay.
And just go in, and any money that we get goes straight to the Rupert's Kids charity. And the Rupert's Kids charity is really interesting. It's not for children, it's for young adults that have gotten into trouble with the law. You guys have both seen the movie Ant-Man, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know where he gets out of jail and he goes to work for Baskin Robbins?
Yes.
And
Oh yeah.
and he gets he's there for a day or whatever, and then they find out that he has he has a record, and he can't work there anymore. And the joke is, Baskin Robbins always knows. Baskin Robbins always finds out. And we all laugh about that, but that's actually what happens to these people that, have done something wrong when they're young, and we were all young and stupid. And excuse me. So let's say that you have, something on your record. You have drugs that you were messing with early in your life, but you got cleaned up. But the problem is that absolutely happens. There was a kid in the Rupert's Kids program, or a young man in the Rupert's Kids program. He was so excited. He was able to get a job at Domino's Pizza. Okay. And he was just working, making pizzas. And it came upon, less than a week after he had gotten the job that he was so excited about. And they're like, we can't have you work here. Why? Because, you had served time. And so what Rupert does, and what the Rupert's Kids program, and I say Rupert because Rupert's so hands-on with these guys, they go in and they teach these kids, okay, this is how we're going to get you a job. This is how you learn to take care of yourself. This is how you learn to, buy a house, pay your mortgage. I'll never forget at one time I came in and I was working on, I think I was working on a GoldenEye pinball machine. And I look in the back and I see he's back there, and he's got these papers out, and a calculator and all this other stuff. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm teaching this man how to do his taxes. And I'm like, that's like the coolest thing I've ever seen, is that you have somebody that is trying to make other people's lives better. And so, yeah, I don't make any money from having those games there. Like I said, it's just cool because I get to have other games,
Right.
but I get to help people. And we also have parties there. I mean, obviously right now it's really, really difficult, but it's in a small town and there's not a ton of places that people can have parties. So we do the parties at $50 an hour, 2-hour minimum, and you can just have your whole family in there and just playing games and just having fun and playing. I mean, it's not like we cheap out on the games really, because I mean we have newer Stearns in there. I mean, you got Aerosmith and everything else.
I have a question about the Baskin Robbins Domino's thing.
Yes.
So, I mean, I can understand that that's probably a problem with a lot of these corporations.
Mm-hmm.
So, does he try to help people with their jobs at the corporations as well? I mean, you brought up the Ant-Man thing. I mean, how does that work? Like the person who lost their job at Domino's because of a record.
He tries, but I mean, realistically, I mean, if that is what the corporation does, Rupert is, I mean, he's kind of fighting a losing battle. There are places that absolutely, like Goodwill, okay? And I know a lot of people that work at actually know one of the main guys that handles all the marketing and layouts for Goodwill of Indiana. And like they will absolutely, accept people with a criminal background, the record.
Because the thing with, doing time or whatever, it's like, okay, you do your time, but now you've served,
Exactly.
you have paid back your debt to society.
Correct.
So we shouldn't treat you as a second-class citizen. I mean, yeah, there's probably going to be some bias. I mean, let's be honest, but yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that can preclude someone from finding employment because, everyone deserves a second chance.
Exactly.
Well, maybe not Hitler.
Right. But I mean, that's the battle, is that you're trying to figure out, and that's what these people did. They did something wrong when they were young, and that is the whole thing. That's what Rupert's Kids is about. How do we help these people? How do we, teach them? Okay, this is how you get, get your car. This is how you pay your insurance. And help them.
Yeah, that sounds really good, because we aren't teaching young people that anymore in schools. We've come a long way from home ec, and it's really sad because, we're, not to get too political, but we're raising a generation of economic illiterates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fact. That's a happy thing to end it on.
And if you'd like to hear how I feel about people with median household incomes of up to $150,000 still getting COVID relief money, check out my Twitter.
We should have stuck with talking about antiquated technologies like IBM Selectric typewriters or something.
I actually like to go to Goodwills and try to find TI graphing calculators. I have I have almost a complete collection, like my wall of armor is here in my office.
See, that's how you end. That's how you end a podcast, right there, baby.
That's right. Ben Heck goes around taking calculators from Goodwill to prevent kids from learning. All right, then. Well, yeah, but hey, thanks for explaining the charity, because I know you brought it up earlier, but you didn't go into details, so that's good.
Anyways, so this has been the Gaming Hipster at ravinghipster.com. It's a Patreon supported show for $2 a month. You get all sorts of shows. I do movie commentaries. I do movie topic shows. I do the gaming show. I do random crap whenever I feel like recording something. I'll do it. I have older shows I've been on through like Geekcast Radio. Just there. In fact, some of them are even free. You can just go onto the Patreon and find like the free pile, and you can download a bunch of stuff. And of course, you can find the Gaming Hipster archive at geekcastradio.com and Spotify, and look for TV's Mr. Neil on Twitch and YouTube. And again, I'd like to thank my guests, Ben Heck and RD Reynolds, for being here and being entertaining and allowing me to be silent while I just listen and laugh along with you guys. It's been a real fun show, and I'll see you again next month.
Yeah, bye.